All right, friends, welcome back to Party XP. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Lakan. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I've done a couple things to rearrange my my setup here in my place.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
how's that going?
doing pretty good. I got a couple, just reorganize a couple things. I ended up actually getting another shelf for my clothes, and I also got another shelf for my figures here. Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, listeners, I am a big fan of anime. I buy these anime waifu figures. Nothing extremely lewd, just like they're usually pretty. They're actually pretty cute. I have some from Rent a Girlfriend. I have some from Demon Slayer, from ReZero. I have one from One Punch Man, and a couple from the quintessential quintuplets. So I had another shelf in my room where I had more of like my action figures, right? And so I had like a Goku, a Gundam, an Nendoroid from Sora from Kingdom Hearts, and I have some Tanjiros from Demon Slayer. And now, because I have another shelf in my room, I'm able to put them together. And it's kind of funny just like looking at the shelf, and I have like Goku, a Gundam, and Sora. And then underneath it, on the shelves below it, is just the boxes for the waifu figures. So it's just like for the waifu figures that are on the other shelf next to it. So it's just there now. So it's like
and then behind there, there's the ones in the jar, right?
No. I'm not a full on degen. I just enjoy cute animated aesthetics. That's just my thing. I really enjoy it. Well, but yeah, I'm glad I got some shelves finally for those things.
Yeah. And, it's funny. You speak about that being your thing. And you know what my thing is? My thing's pro wrestling. And that's going to be where today's episode takes us. So we spoke recently about, VTubers and how similar they are to pro wrestling, and how you really get VTubers, but you don't really understand pro wrestling. And I'm the opposite. So I've been a pro wrestling fan basically my entire life. And I, for whatever reason, have taken to this thing that makes me miserable, but I really do love it when it's done well. And I don't, I didn't quite understand the VTubers. I understand them on like an existence level, right? I understand that there are people that maybe don't feel comfortable in their own skin. And so when they are behind this avatar, behind the VTuber personality, they do feel more secure and they're able to show their real personality, right? Others just use it as a creative outlet, right?
Yeah.
As a character that they've designed. And, the more we talked about it, the more I realized that these two things are very similar, right? And we talked about Mace, Brendan Williams, the professional wrestler who is a VTuber, who has a virtual avatar. And he even mentioned that these two are very similar. And so I figured, since I'm going down the VTuber rabbit hole, why don't you go down some of the pro wrestling rabbit hole and see kind of where I'm coming from, and then a lot of our friend group is coming from.
Yeah, I'm absolutely down for that. So like with pro wrestling, you mentioned you've been like a lifelong fan. I was a fan when I was younger. I like that's absolutely a thing that I watched on a regular. I watched, back in the 90s when it was like WWF still, right? At the time?
Yes.
Yeah, so I watched WWF. I remember I was there for like, the heyday of like The Rock and Stone Cold, and I was a fan of a lot of the older wrestlers like Shawn Michaels, I feel like, it's transcended a couple generations, right? I was a big fan of Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah. Ravishing Rick Rude. I know a bunch of the names, especially of the older generations, and like
Right.
that like late 90s, early 2000s gen. And then I think I personally stopped watching when I started wrestling myself, and not pro wrestling. I started doing I started wrestling in middle school, like collegiate style wrestling.
Lakan, please cut in the South Park meme, like the wrestling guy from South Park. It's like real wrestling.
Real wrestling. It's in the Olympics. Yeah, I'll absolutely add that in. I'll find it.
Thank you.
That's not wrestling, dude. That's fucking gay. Yeah, what are you, a child molester? Where's all the cool costumes and jumping off ropes and stuff?
Oh, not this again. Let me guess, you just went to that stupid WWE show in Denver last night.
Yeah!
Ugh, the WWE is not wrestling. That's a bunch of fake bullcrap.
But yeah, like I think that's when I started doing that. That's when I stopped watching pro wrestling. And I think there was also like a little bit of a stigma around it when we were growing up, where it was like, oh, you still watch pro wrestling? There was a little bit of that, I feel like, when we were growing up. And kind of, it was just funny because like it's a lot, there's like a lot of things in general, right? Like, oh, you still play video games? Well, no, we're like doing like, you know, we're in high school. We drive cars and talk to girls now. And I still don't do
implying you can't do all three of those things.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
I digress.
You know, like, or like, even like another perfect example for me anyway is like Pokemon, right? Everyone's like, oh, like in middle school, high school, like, oh, you still play Pokemon? And then once we got to college, like everyone is back into Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like all of our friends who we
never ended.
Who we knew were jocks, you know, which is funny. Like we know friends who are jocks, or like, you know, kind of like, you know, you wouldn't assume them to be like, you know, to be like nerds about this, but they're like, oh yeah, like I got the new Pokemon Diamond. I'm like, what? You? So it's like the same thing here. It's like, okay, like a little bit of like, oh, you know, oh, you still watch pro wrestling, and then like, you know, and then like in high school and college, and then to this day, it's like, you know, we have friends who like, you guys are obviously fans of it, and then I find out other friends, you know, in other friend groups are like, oh yeah, I still watch wrestling, and I'm just like, what? Like, since when? I'm like, you
wrestling's cool now, don't you know?
Yeah, I guess
wrestling's
apparently.
cool again, I should say.
I mean, like, I know a little bit of like, I see people. One thing that I actually, you know, short tangent here, but like, you know that Bullet Club shirt?
Yes, I know. I own one.
So I didn't know that was related to a wrestling organization. I thought that was like a Supreme type of deal. You know what I mean? Like the Antisocial Social Club. I didn't realize that was a thing. I didn't realize it was actually a wrestling thing.
Bullet Club is basically like the coolest, the new NWO, right? The new DX. They're the new cool faction that everybody wants. Well, you know, it's been a little while since they've been like the one that everybody wanted to be a part of. They're still around. The merch is still cool, but for a time there, Bullet Club was like like I said, the NWO, the DX of this generation, where they were the cool group that everybody wanted to be a part of. They had the top guys from across the globe, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where guys you may see us talk about, like Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, the former Prince Devitt, who is now Finn Balor, you might see. AJ Styles is a guy we talk about quite often.
I've heard that name. I've heard that one anyway.
So he's been somebody that we talk about quite a bit. Yeah, so basically Bullet Club was like the new cool group back in the mid 2010s, and they kind of broke off. A lot of the guys kind of broke off, and that's what All Elite Wrestling kind of turned into. Were a few of those guys breaking off from New Japan Pro Wrestling, forming their own company, and going their own road, basically.
Okay, so AEW. So like, I'm gonna try to relate back to younger days for me. So back in the day, it was WWF and WCW, right? They were separate.
Correct.
And then there was like the takeover. I think that was like a storyline, right?
Right. Well, WWF bought WCW because WCW was going bankrupt.
Okay, so those were the two quote unquote competing like organizations, right?
Okay, here's what it is.
Okay,
imagine Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall left the NWO and started. Well, okay, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and like, do WCW guys make sense to you? I'm sorry, I was a WCW kid growing up.
I know, I remember some of these names. Like like again, if it's older, like 90s, early 2000s, I can remember some of these names. You lose me once it gets to like the mid 2000s.
Right. Okay, so let's do it this way then. Let's use WWF guys.
Okay.
Shawn Michaels, Triple H.
Okay.
And like the New Age Outlaws.
Okay.
Started their own company.
Got it.
Basically. So a couple of guys from this group left, started their own company, and now that company is the new top alternative to WWE programming.
Got it. Okay,
So,
gotcha.
mm-hmm.
So AEW is currently the main competitor to WWE.
Yeah. Now, I mean, look, let's be honest. It's still a long way away from being WWE, but it is the most prominent alternative program that's readily available to American audiences. You still have New Japan, which is definitely a strong competitor. I mean, New Japan is basically like the pro wrestling fans' pro wrestling company. That's where you get a lot of these like 6 and 7 star matches on a scale of 5 that these pro wrestling writers talk about.
What?
I know it's a weird thing, and that's a whole another rabbit hole we can go down. But just know that people really take to the Japanese style, the strong style of pro wrestling, and so you might see people revere this style of wrestling, even though it's not for everyone.
Okay. Well, like what's the sort of difference between strong style?
Yeah, so strong style is kind of a slower paced, more impactful. Like they'll actually hit each other. They will actually punch, slap, chop. One of the nastiest things I've ever heard in my life is somebody straight up headbutting another person, and you hear the impact of the skulls hitting.
Oh damn. Okay.
And I like had to swallow because it was like nauseating to hear that thud. However, what makes New Japan sort of on the outskirts and still kind of niche in the US is that it's very difficult to watch it. You watch it basically on tape delay on Access TV. And so basically, like if something aired on a Friday, the actual event took place 2 weeks ago. So if you stream the program live, you're 2 weeks ahead basically of the access feed, or however many weeks it is. And what you'll realize is that like tape delay programming, especially with like wrestling with spoilers and all that, it's tough to kind of, like
stay out of it. If like it's hard to avoid things basically.
Right, it's hard to avoid things, and it's hard to get immersed when you know that like this is old news already.
Got
right?
it. Okay.
So that's kind of what makes New Japan a little difficult. Same thing with Impact Wrestling, which was formerly TNA. That used to be the top alternative to WWE programming. Basically in the ashes of WCW rose TNA, and it served as a sort of high octane alternative to WWE. But it's also very difficult to find these days. I believe it's also on Access TV because the parent company of Impact Wrestling owns Access TV, so they basically just air it on there for free. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They do.
Where does AEW fall into this whole thing? That's another organization, right? That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So AEW, like I said, is from Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Leaving New Japan, starting their own. Basically, how it started with its own pay-per-view called All Out.
Okay.
Or All In. It's one of them. And then AEW came from that, and now AEW is the main
competitor,
like alternative, right? Because it has the best TV deal. It's on TBS and TNT.
Okay, so because it's available on TV for everybody else to watch, it's one of those things where it's popular because of the fact that you can actually get it without having to jump through a bunch of hoops to get to it. Okay.
So I don't have to buy New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. I don't have to buy Impact Plus. I don't have to have Access TV. I don't have to watch these on tape delay. I can just watch it. I could just watch it on cable television. And that's what makes this thing that's what makes it probably better than the others, I'd say, as far as a competitor to WWE is concerned, is that it's more readily available. I mean,
Gotcha.
WWE is going to always be more readily available. Number one, because it's on Fox on Friday nights. So
Okay.
like any
That makes sense.
schmo with a any schmo with a satellite dish, a cable box, an antenna can watch WWE programming. Also, it's on USA Network, which probably has a bigger footprint in television than even Turner stations. So, like, you can find WWE wherever, right?
Yeah.
So, and also WWE's been around for like 50 years, so you have to factor that in too.
Okay.
AEW started in what 2019, 2020?
Oh wow, so it's super young.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha,
No,
gotcha.
this has not been around very long at
But
all.
considering it's still young, it's still a very, very young company. Then the fact that it's still like the most readily available competitor is already like a big sign.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens when you partner with a multi-billionaire who's the son of a multi-billionaire.
Gotcha.
So Tony Khan is the money basically behind All Elite Wrestling. Lifelong wrestling fan with a ton of money because his father, Shad Khan, is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Fulham FC, and the Premier League. He also owns a travel automotive company. Okay, I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Damn. Damn. Every time I see like a con thing, I also I know a little bit about Japanese wrestling.
Right.
The shoot style is, I guess,
Strong style,
whatever it's called. Oh, shoot style is an actual fighting style. Okay,
right.
So strong style is like I know the Great Okan. I don't know if you ever heard that name.
Probably.
So,
I've heard. It sounds familiar.
So he's a Japanese wrestler, and the only reason why I know about him, I'm gonna go ahead and reach back a little bit here. He is a huge fan, a mega fan of one of the Vtubers that I watch.
Oh, see.
And he literally yells one of her like quote unquote catchphrases before he does his special move.
Oh yeah. He's a New Japan guy.
Okay. Yeah. So the Great Okan, and also I saw he was in the news recently because he actually stopped like a little girl from getting abducted in Japan recently, and I was like, yo, this guy, I know a little bit about this guy because, I know of the VTuber that he watches, and I'm also a fan of that VTuber. And then, like, it was, like, in the news, they talked about it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, so cool to see him, like, a little bit outside of his regular element, I guess. And it's funny, because apparently after he rescued that little girl, he, like, sat down with her and ate pancakes with her, and, while waiting for the police.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's cute.
Yeah, the New Japan guys are great. I wish New Japan was easier to watch. It's such a good product, and I really wish they had a better TV deal because it's a really great product.
So, and I know a little bit. I've seen some of like the clips of the absurdity of New Japan stuff, and it's cool to see. But it's just like, again, I just don't. I guess I just don't get it. Again, because it was weird. Like, it's one of those things where like I'll watch it. I watched one of the WrestleManias with you guys recently. Like we were all in the room. Like we were all in the room together watching it, and I'm like, I was like hyped during the match, and then like immediately my brain shut off during like the talking bits.
Right.
Because
the good news is that DDT is the absurd pro wrestling. That's that's Kenny Omega wrestling the little girl.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I think Kenny Omega also wrestling the blow up doll.
Yeah, I've seen clips of that with the absurdity stuff of that. Yeah,
that's where a lot of that crazy stuff. New Japan kind of takes itself a little more seriously.
Okay, gotcha.
But I think there are funny things like that.
Yeah, I think it could be like a cultural difference, and I'm sure there's a bunch of cultural differences in terms of like just the performance aspect of it, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, no. So it's here it is. Yoshihiko is the blow up doll that wrestles for DDT. Yeah, so that's a thing. But it's all absurdity. So like DDT has a blow up doll. AEW has a guy who is a dinosaur and is kayfabe a dinosaur named Luchasaurus. WWE had a guy, funny enough, also with a dinosaur gimmick called the Funkasaurus, Brodus Clay, who used to dance his way down to the ring. There was a
That sounds fun.
pimp named the Godfather. There was a hockey player named the Goon who wrestled in skates with the blades removed. So you can imagine how that went.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds dangerous, even regardless of
Basically, wrestling is just hand in hand with absurdity because it's basically a carny circus act.
Gotcha. Okay. Man, it's again, it's a weird subject for me because again, like on one part I do understand it, and another part I don't. Right.
Right.
And I relate myself personally more to actual combat. Is that offensive? Actual combat sports?
That's probably offensive because I mean this is real stuff. Like
true.
all the slams are real. Jumping off the top rope is real.
Getting who's the chick who got kicked in the face during the WrestleMania we watched? Like the girl jumped off the top turnbuckle and then I guess she was supposed to it was supposed to be like a catch, right? But the chick's heel went into the girl's eye and basically gave her like the meanest shiner afterwards.
Oh yeah, it was one of the women's matches. I don't remember what. Well,
yeah,
the guy when we were watching, Rick Boogs tore his quad in the middle of the match.
Yeah, and somebody tore their pec, right? And they were like super bruised, like for the next
that was
thing.
Cody.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So like, I know it's real. Yeah, like I understand that. Like, obviously the punishment they're going under is real, but I guess like for me, it's because I watch like, Thai kickboxing and like UFC and ONE and like Pride Fighting Championship.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So combat sports that are not predetermined.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I guess that might be part of the disconnect for me.
It might be it.
And it's just like, yeah, like when the story starts happening, for some reason, I just tune out for it. Mm-hmm. But again, I enjoy like the performance aspect of it. There's just something there that's not letting this pass through my one track, mind, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because I think because basically what we're watching is we're watching a scripted fictional event with live action combat as the catalyst for the story. So when you watch a television show or you watch a movie, they have takes, right?
Yeah.
So, everything is scripted down to the T, where you're watching, Jason Statham fight a bunch of guys. That could have been, multiple takes. Here, everything happened while the end result is predetermined. The journey there can always have unscripted or unplanned moments. And I'm just trying to think, like, so for me, the fun of it is the story, the elements of it,
so
right?
The story, the part that I don't care about.
Right, I guess so.
Unfortunately. Okay,
right.
Well, I'm gonna make an attempt. Don't worry, I'm gonna make an attempt. I'm just as of right now, the part that I tune out is the part that you really, really enjoy. Okay.
Right. No, for me, it's all about weaving a great narrative with a great payoff at the end. And you hear that talk. You hear us talk about that a lot. When it comes to the way, like the booking decisions that happen within the company, where sometimes you get frustrated because you want to see the bad guy get the comeuppance, right? The things they deserve. You want to see the fan favorite win, and sometimes they don't give it to you when you're ready for it. Sometimes they make you wait a little further. But that's also part of the fun of it. It's also kind of fun seeing how they get to the point where you kind of know they're going to. And I think what's tough for you with this is that there's not really a story behind combat sports. You don't normally have a television show plot. For the lack of let's be honest with ourselves. There's never really a soap opera plot in combat sports, right?
Yeah, like that's why like the storylines have to be kind of like incentivized or like kind of explained, I guess, by the people who like actively watch it. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, this guy lost his championship, So he's been training, fighting two people to get back into proper competition shape, and then that's when they can make a shot again at the championship run. You know what I mean? So like,
right,
and it has to be explained by somebody who has to be really, really in it to like, okay, now I understand. That's why he wasn't able to just call for a rematch. You know what I mean? Because there's another guy who's coming up and coming, who has who like, because he's taken on all comers and beaten everybody. Like, he deserves a shot at the title as well, even though there's a previous champion also trying to vie for that same title.
Right, but that's not the most difficult thing to understand.
Yeah.
What gets screwy is like, oh, the corrupt commissioner or the corrupt authority figure has screwed this person out of a match. The corrupt champion won't fight, because in UFC and boxing, it's pretty standard. You fight the number one contender at all times. In wrestling, you can screw around a little bit. Well, yeah, I know. But you can screw around and you say, oh, well, I'm not going to fight the number one contender because I said so. And it doesn't really work like that in traditional combat sports.
Yeah, you just take the biggest competitor at the time and go for it if the person's not trying to,
right,
or is willing to take that chance on any fight he takes. Unlike Mayweather. Sorry, something in my throat. But yeah, so like, the idea, I guess, is like, I like that idea of like, okay, for a story, you don't give the person who lost a title or deserves a title right away the chance to go for it. I like the idea, so that for a bigger payoff later. I like that idea. I think maybe because I'm out of it for so long that I just too much like lore or backstory that I also don't understand.
That's another thing too, especially when you have things, and AEW does this a lot, even though that's kind of the show that I watch the most. But they do kind of make it so that you have to watch Dynamite. You have to watch Rampage, which is the show that takes place for an hour on Friday nights. You sometimes have to watch the YouTube shows that take place on Monday and Tuesday. Sometimes you have to watch the vlogs of the competitors because there's relevant canonical lore information within things like Being the Elite, which is a web series that the Young Bucks have put out for the last like 5 years. And if you didn't watch Being the Elite, you wouldn't know that the Young Bucks and their former tag team partner have kind of been slowly but surely gravitating back towards each other. And that gets tough sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
The nice thing about WWE up until recently is that they had a short-term memory because the guy in charge, Vince McMahon, made sure that everybody had a short-term memory. Nobody brought up things from the past. Everything was just kind of forward-focused. Now, with his son-in-law, Triple H, a former wrestler who you'll see this week, taking over, you're going to get a lot more of the callbacks. You're going to get a callback from a match. You may get a callback from a match from 2015. You may get a reference to wrestlers' time in a different company,
so
right?
There's more like of an overarching kind of storyline then, basically, at this point.
Correct.
Or like a shift towards it anyway. Okay. It sounds like at this point it's like an Avengers movie where they're referencing all the other previous Marvel movies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Especially AEW has a bad habit of doing that. But I will say that the announce team, specifically Excalibur, who's one of like the announcers, does a good job of trying to keep you informed of everything and provide as much context as possible. But there's only so much that a normal wrestling fan, like I'll be honest, I don't watch the YouTube shows. I barely watch Rampage. I only watch Rampage when like wrestlers that I'm big fans of are performing. Okay. Usually I just look at the spoilers and move on, right?
Yeah, like watch like a clip or something, just explain what happened and move
exactly.
forward.
Or I just look at it on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
How I watch most of wrestling these days is just through clips online.
Okay, okay, yeah.
No, yeah, I think you'll have some fun with this. I think just don't take it seriously. Is basically don't try to think about.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, don't think about every little thing that goes into pro wrestling. Don't look at it under a microscope like us, because then it just gets miserable, and then you spend 3 hours arguing about semantics and storyline devices with your friends in a Facebook chat,
Yeah.
and you don't even enjoy what you're watching anymore. Just
it's funny, right? Because for our group, and like you have said this before, Buffett said this before, where like the biggest wrestling fans are also like the biggest haters of wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Or, like the people who hate it the most are the biggest fans. Which
professional wrestling is heroin, because it makes you feel like shit all the time until you get the high, and then it makes you feel better than anything else on the planet.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like getting to watch the great main event heavyweight title match that has the ending that you want. Like, okay, so good example. So when one of my all-time, like one of my favorites, Adam Page, Hangman Page, finally beat Kenny Omega, one of my other favorites, for the AEW title, I was happy for like 3 days. Sounds kind of stupid, but I was so happy that we finally got the payoff that we all wanted for multiple months.
Gotcha.
And after it had been taken away from us multiple times as well, because again of like storyline and plot devices.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you finally get what you want, and you finally like heroin, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like the payoff is so insane at that moment that it feels so like it genuinely changes your mood and like makes you actually feel ecstatic because of it. Okay.
Yeah, but then every Wednesday night I'm like, God, this sucks.
Gotcha.
And then every Saturday I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Ooh, okay. Well, you're saying Wednesday, Saturday, Friday, I gotta watch a vlog. How am I supposed to consume this?
Okay,
I guess the same question essentially you had for the VTuber episode. How am I supposed to consume this? Because it seems like there's a lot going on.
You don't. Who cares? So basically,
so what's your? I guess if I'm not going to consume all of it, what's your plan for helping me try to get into this?
Right. All you're gonna do, you're gonna watch 2 of the weekly programs.
Okay.
And you're gonna watch 2 pay-per-views. I'm going to give you a retro pay-per-view that was basically the catalyst into my love for professional wrestling. So
okay.
So from the start, you're gonna watch Monday Night Raw.
This week's Monday Night Raw.
This week's Monday Night Raw.
Okay.
You'll watch AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Okay, so that's 2 different companies already.
Right.
Okay.
Just to see the difference between sports entertainment, which is what WWE is, the highly produced
storyline
kind of feels more like a television show.
Okay. Gotcha.
About professional wrestling versus a professional wrestling program. AEW is kind of it's basically more of a professional wrestling program.
Got it. Okay.
There is definitely a different feel to both shows, but I enjoy both shows.
Okay, gotcha. So they're the same thing, but with different focuses, essentially in their production.
Oh yeah,
gotcha.
And you will be able to see the difference.
Got it. Okay,
for sure. Especially you as somebody who I think understands production and like putting on a live show.
Mm-hmm.
You'll definitely be able to discover the difference between the two, and I'm interested to see how you feel about it.
Okay.
Then for the 2 pay-per-view events, I mean, these are kind of short. You can honestly, you should probably watch all of them.
The whole thing. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you could probably watch everything. I mean, you might be able to skip 1 or 2
fights
matches
or whatever. Okay.
Just don't skip the last couple. Basically, you can kind of like fast forward through the first couple of matches. There will be a couple that you're interested in.
Okay.
But so the pay-per-view I'm going to give you is WrestleMania 14. And so this is basically the start of the Attitude Era, which was the most popular time for professional wrestling in the mid-90s. So the selling point of this match is a match between Stone Cold Steve Austin, again at the time a up-and-coming guy who was sort of looking for that first shot at the very top of the card. He had been sort of in the mid-card, right? Like a middle-of-the-road wrestler.
Yeah.
And this was sort of his ascent to that whole Austin 316, the bald head, the black trunks, the Texas tattoo on the ankle.
The jorts.
And, yeah, this is kind of like in between. Yeah, so like his quote unquote casual wear was the jorts and the black t-shirt. But the wrestling gear is the black trunks with the black boots.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
And this is where he wrestles Shawn Michaels. who
okay.
represent kind of the old guard, right? So
I was a huge fan of Shawn Michaels. I just enjoyed his was it finishing move, I guess, or his signature, whatever.
the switch in music.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's just a kick to the face. I always appreciated that, even as a kid. Even now to this day, I watch like a replay. It's like it's just a dude getting a heel to the chin. It's funny, but it's enjoyable for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he's one of my all-time favorites too. I love him, and I think he's incredible. And this is like the match. Also, by the way, Mike Tyson will serve as the special guest enforcer in this match.
What?
Yeah, that's another thing that kind of makes wrestling a little wonky.
I should have remembered this. I feel like I should have remembered this from.
I feel like once you Google and you see the poster, you'll remember this.
Okay.
Because this is an iconic poster. It's got Austin, it's got Tyson, it's got Michaels on it. There's also a lot of other really good matches on here. You'll get an Undertaker match. You're gonna get a match with The Rock and Ken Shamrock, which is cool. I don't think the match is all that great, but you get to see them in the ring together. So that's
like
cool.
younger Rock, younger Shamrock.
You get to see Triple H. You get to see Owen Hart, who passes away. I think a little bit after this. So,
Thank you for clarifying, because it is. I have been yelled at multiple times in our chat for forgetting which Hart is the one who had passed.
The one who's not with us.
Yes, you guys yell at me every time I forget which one's which.
Shit, yeah. Like basically a year after this is when Owen Hart passes away.
Oh wow, okay. So this is like a big moment, I guess, in terms of like the history of Owen Hart, I guess.
This might be his last WrestleMania pay-per-view.
Is it? Okay.
I'm gonna look and see here. No. This is his second to last, but this is still a good showing from him. Okay. You get to see Triple H. You'll also get to see the Road Warriors, which is pretty cool. One of like an old school team. So I think you'll have some fun with that. I don't know what the other pay-per-view I'm going to give you is yet.
Okay.
I'm just going to be fully transparent, but we'll talk about it a little more during our next meeting, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and so we'll give ourselves a little bit of time for me to get through all this content.
Yeah, I mean,
because WrestleManias are a couple hours, if I remember correctly, right? They all were.
Well, okay. Now that it's no longer now it's a 2-day event. I mean, now it's like
I remember when we got together for it. It was like, okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Or you guys were like, we'll see some of y'all tomorrow, and I'm like, what? And then I walked away. I left the gathering, and then like somebody mentioned it, and I was like, wait, it's still happening? And then you guys had to explain that there's another day of content for you guys to consume, basically. And I was like, what the hell is happening here?
It's not, the old WrestleManias weren't as much of events. So basically, the entire card for this event totals to about 86 minutes. And that's just matches. So you figure this is going to be basically a 2-hour event with transitions and promo packages
and some story going on. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so basically this one's going to be probably about 2 hours.
Okay, yeah, I can get through. I can do that then. How long are the episodes on TV?
So Raw is 3 hours. I'm not going to make you watch all 3 hours. That's
Thank you.
Stupid. Nobody watches all 3 hours.
Okay.
Basically, my rule with WWE is you watch the first half hour, you watch the last half hour, and you try to stick around for any other matches you're interested in the middle.
Gotcha.
But basically, you just kind of skip through everything until you get to something good. AEW is 2 hours. I generally follow the same formula. I watch the first half hour, I watch the last half hour, and I kind of pay attention here and there with the stuff in between. The women always go on at 9:30, so if you want to watch, go ahead. If not, it's a nice time to go to the bathroom.
Okay, gotcha.
And get a snack. But that's the thing, yeah. And then, like I said, with WrestleMania, you could probably fast forward through a bunch. But definitely make sure you watch all of Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels. Like that's the match that basically turned me into a wrestling fan.
Word. Okay. So I guess in regards to the event, the WrestleManias, I guess I'm like, we'll see how I feel on those days that I actually finally get around to watching them. I guess write to me like a note, I guess in our chat in our specific chat, so on which ones I should probably focus on to at least to make sure I don't I don't skip these ones. I guess you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, just watch Stone Cold. Basically, as long as you watch Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels, like you're good.
Okay,
The Undertaker match I think is always good. Taker's always a good time.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Undertaker when I was younger.
Triple H and Owen Hart's probably a good match. I mean, that goes on for almost 12 minutes. So that's got to be pretty good. It looks like there's a mixed tag between Mark Marrow and Sable versus Goldust and Luna Vachon. Goldust is great. Goldust is Dustin Rhodes. He's the son of Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and the brother of Cody Rhodes, who we mentioned before.
Yeah. Goldust was the guy with the gold suit, right? He like painted his face gold too, right?
The flamboyant, androgynous guy in the suit.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember his whole shtick. I was all about it.
Yeah,
I remember. When I was younger.
He's really wonderful. Like I love him. He's so good. So that might be something. See what you do. Like see what you're into. Like watch for a few minutes. If you're not really feeling it, skip ahead a little bit. If you're still not feeling it, then just skip the match. But a lot of this stuff is pretty good.
Yeah. Because again, like there's a bit of this that I do already like appreciate, right? The athleticism and the performance aspect of it. It's just I guess it's just the next step for me is actually like not over analyzing it, as you said. Don't try to micro analyze every little thing that I see.
Right, exactly, and don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, okay.
Because remember, it's all just carny bullshit.
Got it.
Don't ever forget that it's all just carny bullshit.
It's a show. It's a show. Got it.
It is.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. I'll try my best. Again, I'll try to get myself out of my like fighting sport brain and try to just
pretend you're watching a television show.
Okay. Yeah. That might actually might be like the best tip that I've heard in a while on how to watch wrestling.
Yep, that's it.
Word.
All right. So next time you hear from us, it'll be about a week or two from this recording, and Lakan will have gleaned quite a bit about professional wrestling. So we will see you then.
I am the cream of the crop. And the cream always rises to the top. Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, it's been 2 weeks. Lakan, what did you think about pro wrestling in 2022?
Oh man. Okay. Let me start off, I guess, with how you had me go into this. Okay. So you had me watch episode of Monday Night Raw. Episode of Monday Night Raw, right? Which was cool, I guess. For the most part, like I watched it, and a bunch of people who I'm like, I have no idea who any of these people are. That's perfectly fine. I understandable, I guess, on my end, because I haven't watched and kept up in a while, and I've like heard some of the names, but like because you guys mentioned them, and then I was like, okay, I don't know who I should care about. I don't know who's important in the storyline of WWE right now, right? So I was like, okay, I'll just watch whatever. And you told me like before, like if I find it interesting, watch it. If I don't, just start moving through. You know what I mean? Just skip ahead to the next fight or whatever. Yeah, and I think this is an issue with me as well, where it's like if I don't know what's important to the story, I'm just gonna read or watch everything because I'm assuming everything's gonna be important. That's a me issue. But I watched. So let me see. I'm just gonna go in order, I guess, of that night. Right. Again, this was 2 weeks ago, right? 2-3 weeks ago,
right? 2 Mondays ago. Yeah. So this is
so this is the one with Rey Mysterio and the trio of people. What, Judgment Day?
Yes. Yeah. This is the August 22nd edition.
Okay, so I have no idea who Judgment Day is. They do a pretty good job of like doing like the quick essential flashbacks of like what happened last week. You know what I mean? I saw him and his son get beat up. They were like dragging him around. Okay, that's his son. I think I knew a little bit about that because I've watched like WrestleMania with you guys and seen him and his son compete and perform together. Basically, all I could think about was during this fight was I don't know who these people are. I also don't know who Edge is, and I don't know why he has a long-standing feud with Judgment Day. But is he a friend with Rey Mysterio? And then like basically, there's a lot of this stuff trying to like piece together things in my mind.
Right.
And then like he wouldn't hit the chick in the group, but everyone else is smacking him down. And then I saw a metal chair come out, and then the neurons activated in my brain, and I was like, yeah, metal chair. Just like, yeah, let's go. And then like after that happened, I was like, okay, cool. That I still have no idea what's happening. You know what I mean? It's like I kind of assumed that Rey Mysterio is the good guy, and the other group are heels, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
just, I'm gonna assume since Rey Mysterio has been an old time favorite of many, it's like I'm kind of also kind of dropping in and here, so it's like it's hard for me to catch up and kind of understand where things are going on. So skip along, there's a tag team women's match. And then I also realized at this point there's a lot of cuts and like commercial breaks in the middle of matches, which throws me off. And then like clips and highlights from last week's event and teasers for next week's event kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like, I don't know. It could be just like an industry thing, right? Where like, they're on TV, they have to worry about all this stuff like ads and promotions and commercials. And it's just like, man, like I felt like I've seen YouTube videos with better editing.
You probably have.
Yeah, and I thought I was like, am I being too hard on this? You know what I mean? Because like I'm not really a big fan of this, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. It feels like they're ruining the flow of everything that I'm watching, and I'm like getting actually aggravated. Like only like 20 minutes into this whole thing, and it's what 3 hours for an episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I had like 5 pee breaks in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm gonna go get like some, I have a sandwich in the fridge. I'm gonna go grab that, I guess, since it's commercial now. Why not? Even though I DVR'd it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could just keep skipping through, but I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna move along. Yeah, man, it's like the biggest thing, my first like main opinion on this whole thing was like they do a decent job of trying to like expand on last week's thing and create storylines and kind of lead into storylines for upcoming stuff. But because of the way that everything is cut and edited, it feels like I have ADHD and I can't keep up and can't keep track of everything. And it bothers me so much. And that's coming from a guy who watches a lot of YouTube, who does, and a lot of the channels that I watch do these like high amount of like cuts and editing. You know what I mean? Like I watch like Unga Bunga Zoomer content sometimes. I do. And it's like, and I feel like I have a better job. I have a better experience following those than following a professional production like WWE.
Yeah, so go ahead, when we're done, go ahead and look up on your social media platform of choice. Probably Twitter would be the best. Go look up the name Kevin Dunn and see what people say about him.
Kevin Dunn,
in the context of WWE. Yeah.
Let me make a note real quick right now, so I can look up Kevin Dunn. 1 second. Kevin D-U-N-N, I'm assuming.
D-U-N-N, yeah.
Okay,
so Kevin Dunn is the head of WWE production, and nobody likes him.
Okay.
He is a controversial figure. Let's just say that.
Gotcha. Was he a former wrestler, or was he like
no
the person who was always on the production end of this whole thing?
Kevin Dunn's dad saved a lot of WWE footage from a fire, and Vince McMahon said that his son would have a job for life, and he meant it.
Oh, okay. So basically, he is not a person who's actually meant to have this job. He's literally here because of what's the word I'm looking for?
Nepotism.
Yeah, there we go. So this is like basically full on nepotism hire. Yeah, because like I don't like if he's the head of production here, he does not belong there. There is just so much that like genuinely took me out of the experience. Again, I'm trying to be open. I used to like wrestling. I've fallen out of it, and I'm trying to I just want to know what it is about this that you guys enjoy so much. And I'm finding it very hard to enjoy like the regular production, like just the regular, just an episode basically. Like my brain hurt. It was genuinely exhausting for me to try to get through 3 hours of this. And I was skipping around. Like, it was like, what the hell's happening? I can't track anything here. So I'm confused on how you guys, like, try to consume this content in the first place. Because, like, from you guys, you guys, enjoy and, like, love-hate relationship with wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And when you guys talk about it so much, I'm like, where did you remember this? Because I can't remember a goddamn thing that I watched. And it was like, again, like, I watched 3 hours. I shortened it down to, like, an hour and a half. Just, like, skipping through shit and skipping the commercial breaks and... Man, like it was just like I don't know how you guys track anything that happens here. I'm assuming you guys are just picking your favorite, your favorite personalities, right, and just follow them, basically, right?
Pretty much. And I mean, also we've been watching it for a long time, so a lot of the jarring camera cuts aren't quite as jarring to us since we kind of know they're coming. And like you said, there's also websites that report all of this stuff, so. Generally, how I consume Raw, and I don't know how much more in terms of notes you have for Raw.
I basically put notes down for every match that I watched.
Okay.
But like I don't need to hit every one of these. A lot of these are just like mostly me complaining about what the hell is happening. That's mostly it.
Right. So the gist is like the production sucks and everybody knows it, and we're kind of hoping that the new regime in WWE addresses that. What did you think about the in-ring stuff and like the not anything basically that didn't have to do with production?
Okay, cool. So, the women's match, I started watching that. So I'm just gonna go in order, I guess, of what so Rey Mysterio and the Judgment,
Judgment Day.
Okay. Yeah. The tag team women's match. There was like so here's one more thing production wise. There was literally like 30 seconds to 45 seconds of the women's match, and then a commercial happened. And then the fact that they had to show a replay of what happened during the match that was happening because they ran an ad break. I hated that. They did that a lot throughout this entire thing. It was just like the things they show, like stuff like, some more of like, actual ring stuff. Like, I saw like a double leg drop kick and some flip stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? They were doing some stuff during this thing. And then like, but I had to watch it in like, the main screen with the actual match live, quote unquote, live in the top left corner.
Right.
And I'm just like, now I'm watching two things at the same time and I can't keep up. Because they like, how am I supposed to know if nothing's actually happening in the top left? How am I supposed to know that? You know what I mean? That's why they're showing the replay. The match was fine. Watch the big girl. I don't know her name. The chick in like the big blonde chick with the leather bodysuit. Bro,
yeah,
she can
drop.
She can schmove. Like I was like sick. And the first time I saw like a submission in the first time, I feel like since I've watched pro wrestling. Like, because Asuka had like an arm bar of some sort.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I feel like I don't really see people tap out in wrestling. Usually it's like they grab the rope to escape, or someone comes in and kicks, hits the person in control of the submission lock. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, oh, I feel like I haven't seen that in a long time. And I don't know. Again, I've been out of the game for a very, very long time. And then there was like a post-fight beef. And then I saw a bit with like Logan Paul. And I was like, what's happening?
He's around.
And I think I've heard that he was involved, but I had no idea what he was doing. And then like Miz and Ciampa were doing like Logan Paul's bit with like the card of themselves, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, like I don't understand the fight pacing. I feel like a lot of the fights, I don't know what the pacing is. Like I know the general formula, right? It's like start off slow, things ramp up. Sometimes there's like a superhero, like, about to lose moment kind of deal where like one person's kind of losing and then they kind of like, get the second win and then kind of fight back against it kind of deal. And then it feels like they're always trying to build towards something, but then having an ad in the middle kills all the momentum for me. And then I guess because I don't know if they do other things other than just doing kind of the formula that I already have in my mind, that I feel super like underwhelmed by how the match actually ends a lot of times.
No, you're right to feel that, because a lot of the times the endings are underwhelming.
Again, I appreciate a lot of like the physicality and the stage performance stuff of it. Like, like I noticed like stage striking, right? Slapping legs, like, and really like hiding that leg slap to create impacts to like the sound of like kicking somebody in the face. You know what I mean? Like I appreciate that stuff. Like, because there was one that was like a really big kick to Miz's face, and I was like, and like the slap was like, it was the hand motion to slap the leg was big, but it played off really well, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually didn't really, didn't really throw me off. You know what I mean? Like I noticed it, but it didn't make it feel fake to me. You know what I mean? But luckily for that match, like the workup actually paid off. But again, I hated the fact that I was getting taken out of the flow of the match. And then the biggest complaint that I have afterwards is that after every match there's a bunch of talking that I just do genuinely, my eyes glaze over, and I just do not care about it. There was literally a thing of big Scottish guy, Irish guy, McAfee.
Yeah, Drew McIntyre.
That guy. And like, so like there was a bunch of talking. It was literally just them talking for the next, like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And, I'm sure it's for the crowd and for the people who are like actually there, who are really like, who are like eating it up. But I was like, I just do not care about this at all. Like, I just did not give a damn. Yeah, like the fights again, like, was it McIntyre versus Owens?
Kevin Owens.
Yeah, Kevin Owens. That's the guy who has like a podcast or a show within a show.
Yes, the Kevin Owens show is like a segment within WWE programming.
And they said that like Kevin Owens is like a veteran. How long has he been in the production for?
So Kevin Owens has been around in WWE for, I want to say he's been here for a little while, but he's been wrestling on the independents for a very long time.
Okay, because like they were saying, like, yeah, he's a veteran of the fight game, basically, kind of deal, right? Because I'm looking at McIntyre, and he looks like built. He looks like he was built out of like, or like, you know, crafted out of fucking granite. Like he's built like a brick shit house. And I'm looking at Kevin.
Funny you mentioned.
And I'm looking at Kevin Owens, and I'm like, how the fuck is this guy supposed to fight this guy?
Yeah. Kevin Owens has been with WWE since 2014.
Oh, shit. Okay.
He's been on the quote-unquote main roster since 2016. Pardon me, 2015.
Okay. So he's been around for a long time within, I guess... is that a long time? Because I feel like Rey Mysterio has been around for a long time, if you want to call it that.
Ray has been around for a long time. Kevin Owens has technically been wrestling since the year 2000.
Oh, okay.
So he's been wrestling like professionally since... I would say he's been with like a somewhat major promotion since 2004.
Okay, so it's okay. So it has been a decently long time then. So around the time that I stopped watching is basically he's been around then.
Right, but this was also like Combat Zone Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, smaller promotions on the other side of the country that you probably wouldn't have seen anyway.
Okay, yeah. So he's been around for a long enough time, and yeah, it's like I don't know if there's a weird booking or a storyline thing, but I was like, I do not understand again how this guy's supposed to fight this, you know, Scottish god of a man.
Because he's tough and he's just gonna fight him.
I guess.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean that's how.
I mean, I guess fair, but it's just like, man, I don't know. Like
he can hang with him. Hey, he's a former world champion too.
Yeah, and again, he schmoves. Like again, I saw a lot of aerial stuff from Owens. A lot of big pickups and slams from McIntyre. You know, play to the strengths. Yeah. That's one of my comments I wrote here. I was like, yeah, play to their strengths, right? Owens can schmoove. McIntyre is built like a brick shit house, so I expect him to pick up people and throw them around basically like a rag doll, which they did. And I was like, yeah, this is decent choreography. And again, these guys are, I guess, are bigger names and, you know, veterans of this wrestling production. So like it felt like the flow was way better. You know what I mean? There's a lot more like a lot more kind of them just kind of playing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like we know what we're gonna, we kind of have an idea of what's gonna happen next. You know what I mean? So like the flow was better. It didn't feel as much as like people trying to figure out what they're gonna do next.
Right. It's almost like you have two professionals who are super talented and good at what they do. And there's a reason why they have been put in the positions that they've been put in. So it's funny that you mentioned Drew is like chiseled out of granite and all that. So his original gimmick, right, the original character that he sort of played was the chosen one, right? So he was sort of like handpicked by Vince as the next guy, but he didn't really understand it or put in the work to be that. And so he left kind of unceremoniously, went back to the independents, went back to like to Impact, and sort of rebuilt himself into a championship contender. And then he came back and fulfilled that fantasy or fulfilled that legacy.
Okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes then as well. Again, also I've been very out of the loop. So okay, I didn't realize he was like handpicked and then went away. I just assumed this guy was already like a fan favorite in the first place.
Yeah, no, and people really, really respect him for the work that he's put in. And I mean, you could watch it tangibly throughout his time with Impact and the independents, and he really did reinvent himself to be somebody who is worth investing in and being called the chosen one. So it's been really cool to see him sort of actually become that person that everybody thought he could be.
Word.
And I think it's cool.
Yeah,
you know, and he's one of my guys. I really like him.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand. He definitely has like a charisma about him, and he can definitely perform. You know, All I could think of was like if he was a Highlander, like that movie would be ended in like 10 minutes. That's all I could think of. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like I see that dude, like I'm leaving. But yeah, all you, bro. You're the Highlander now. Yeah, and then, you know, that was a pretty good match. I really enjoyed that one. Like I actually, like, again, there was a lot of high flying stuff, a lot of big throws. Yeah, I think I wrote here like there's a good sell for like a shoulder check where Kevin Owens like flipped over, like he did like an actual like a full flip and like a half twist in the air. Right. And I was like yeah, it's a good sell. You know, it didn't felt overselling because especially when you think you're running full speed at a dude like McIntyre. yeah, I'm not. He's not gonna move. I'm the one who's gonna get sent, and I'm like probably heavier than he is. But yeah, it was a good fight. I really enjoyed that one. And then I saw there was like an interruption. You know, then people jumped into the ring for the fight, and I guess disqualified somebody. And I was like, I have no idea what's happening. Like I was just so confused at that point. They were the who are they? Who are the people who interrupted the tribal? Or the
Usos, Roman Reigns' cousins.
Yeah. Because he's supposed to fight him, I guess on that Friday. I think that was supposed to happen.
Today.
Oh, there we go. So yeah,
actually. So as it happened earlier today, that fight.
Okay. Yeah, the clash at the castle in Wales, and I was like, yeah, because I saw the Wales dragon already, and I was like, oh, that's Wales's flag, and I only know that because one of the YouTubers that I watch, he's always talks about how he's Welsh, and like no one else knows what Wales is, and it's the only reason why I know about the dragon. And then I thought it was like a relation to him because he's Scottish, and I'm like, wait, no, that's different. Like why would it be there? And then I didn't realize, oh, the event's in Wales. Or in so okay,
it's in the event took place in Cardiff, Wales.
Okay, so that made more sense as information was brought to me afterwards. But initially, I was like, Scotland is not Wales, and I thought it was just like a dumb production hiccup kind of deal.
Right.
Okay, makes more sense now. That's perfectly fine.
But you know, it's all in the United Kingdom, and for WWE, that's close enough. So yeah,
that's fine. They're all the same. Here's one that legitimately threw me off here. The fight after that one, Bo Keller and Veer Mahan. Was that just a filler match?
Yes. So you probably realize, like, it was over really fast, right?
Yeah, like 3 minutes, maybe 3-5 minutes at the most.
That's called it's a little longer than a squash match, but yeah, basically, it's designed to make one guy, and I'm sure Veer won the match.
Yes.
Yeah, so the matches like that are called squashes, and what basically happens is one guy is meant to look dominant in the match to make him look better, right? Or make the performer look better. So that's basically what happened. And you have those once in a while to build up new credible threats.
For challenging for like a title or something?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's as if in like a traditional combat sport where like an up and comer like fights like a veteran and like, you know, somehow dominates him in the first couple rounds basically, and you're like, oh, he actually is like a title contender kind of deal.
Right. You kind of have that in here. You don't really have the prove it fights. I mean, you usually save that for pay-per-views, but it's basically like that situation where you see what the young guy has, he ends up coming out on top, and now you feel like you've got something. My
note during that fight was I don't remember a lot of. I'm assuming Veer Mahan is like Indian or Bangladeshi or something.
Yes.
Okay. I never clarified. I never followed it up, but I was like, okay, like, so I was like, let me see what's going on here. My thought here was, I don't remember there being like a lot of notable, not any, but I mean, not a lot. Like I know the Iron Sheik, you know, was one, but like not a lot of Middle Eastern, Indian, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan wrestlers, you know what I mean, within like the pro WWE, WWF productions either, you know what I mean. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's a lot more people who are like, I guess, more into this from other cultures, which is kind of cool. I always appreciate that was like a nice little appreciation thing for me, because one thing I do think about when I watch this stuff is that it does give people like a hero to look up to, you know what I mean? Like even if you, especially if you get into it and you're committed to the whole thing, where like the stereotype for wrestling is a lot of drunken white dudes, right? Just and I see there's a good amount of them in the crowd, but it's like, especially back then to now, I see a lot more diversity within the fan base, you know, which I appreciate regardless if I watch the production or not. Even watching the WrestleMania a couple months ago, I think, right, with who was the chick with the with my hair back and forth chick,
Bianca Belair, yeah.
It was like seeing like young black women, like young black girls watching, you know, like a pro wrestler and having somebody to like cheer for, you know what I mean? And we can we'll touch on it a little bit more when we talk about the WrestleMania we watched together as a group, and you know, you explained some stuff through us. But it's like, again, like that production was very, very white. You know what I mean? Like a majority of all the women's fights were white. A majority of the guys competing were white, especially with the one with the main storylines. But here it's like, especially nowadays, it's like, oh, it's cool to see more diversity and people who are like, you know, and not just because of like diversity hires, but like there are genuine people who want to perform within this, you know, production, this product, and really enjoy themselves. And then which also brings more people of other backgrounds into being into the fandom. which I really appreciate. I like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because like when I was younger, it's like the only real connection that I had to pro wrestling was I was like, man, I hope there's a brown dude there. Like, you know what I mean? I just want, like, I don't care if they're not even Asian or Filipino. Like, bro, Rikishi, I'll take it, bro. We're close. He's big and brown. I'll take him.
Yeah.
You know, like The Rock. I was like, I don't even know what he is. He could be Filipino for all I knew. Especially back then, he was very, very like people were not sure of what he was. So I was like, okay, sure, maybe he's Filipino. I'll take it. I had Yokozuna. You know what I mean? And even then,
right.
he wasn't even Japanese.
Nope. He was Samoan.
Yeah, like, and then that's when I realized that there's a lot of Samoans with it. You know, back then when I realized Samoans were like very, very big in the wrestling scene. But like that was really it. You know what I mean? It was like a lot of like white wrestlers, black wrestlers, and then like Samoan wrestlers. And very occasionally you'll see an Asian dude, like an actual East Asian guy. And that was my thoughts back then. And today, again, still kind of not suffers from that, but I guess like it's just depends on, I guess, how much people want to how many of those people break through within the Western, I guess at least the WWE production, because we talked about New Japan, and there is a whole Japan wrestling league and a giant underground scene for them as well. I've mentioned the great Okan is one of those ones that I've watched because he's a big fan of like some VTubers that I watch. Again, I don't know how many of them are ever going to break into the scene here, into the mainstream popularity here in the US and the West. But it's cool. It is, in general, there's just more people more performers and wrestlers that people that of other cultures can get behind. I really appreciate that now.
For sure.
But yeah, Veer Mahan, was like, okay, so clearly that was a squash. Okay, that was made to make him look good. Yeah, because that lasted like, I don't know, again, like 3-5 minutes, and I was like, cool.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, and then a commercial, and then another commercial. So that like always.
Yep.
And then they which led into the Lashley Styles match.
Yeah.
Again, and I thought same thing for when I saw and I know of Lashley because we've talked about him before in our group chat. He has a history outside of wrestling as well. Built like a absolute brick shit house, just the absolute unit of a man. Like, and it's funny because the other people who's like fighting in the ring are also very much so big and jacked and in shape, but Lashley just looks absolutely built different.
Super. He's a unicorn. Like he is one of one.
Yeah, and also again, it's a championship fight, right? For them. All I could think was like, man, there's way more impact or better choreo or both or whatever. Just bigger hits, more stuff happening. I literally have like almost like no notes for this one because this one I absolutely just got lost in. Like this is the first match of the night so far that I was able to turn my brain off and just enjoy.
Again, it's you can tell the difference between people who are really good at this and people who aren't.
Yeah, very much. There's very stark contrast in terms of like my experience with watching like clear veterans and performer, and like performers or wrestlers. I don't know what the terminology is here. There's a very, very clear difference when they are much more experienced and have a better understanding of what makes a good show, basically. Right, just a better fight, and because of the fact that I was able to genuinely turn my brain off, I was just like, yeah, I'm in. Like I really, really enjoyed that one. So yeah, like that was kind of like my experience, at least with the WWE, with the Raw part. Right. Again, like it's like unfortunately for the most part of it, again, I had to like look at the matches with a very critical eye because since I couldn't get like fully invested. I'm like, I guess I'll just look at whatever I can actually understand or what I notice. You know what I mean? Like I noticed there was I don't know if it was like a weird missed move during like the McIntyre and Owens fight. Like there was like a weird DDT looking thing that looked like it was like what do they call it when they miss a move? And it looks like they missed one. Like what do they call it when they miss like a move?
It's technically called a botch, but I know his DDT that he does looks a little different.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. So I don't know if it was a botch or like because I was like or not because it just looked like they bounced off of it weird. You know what I mean? Like so, but he did it again and looked cleaner. So like I don't know if that was like meant to be a thing or not.
Right.
So like stuff like that I noticed more because I had to like look at everything super analytically. But once that moment hits where I'm like committed and in. It was like, oh, sick. Yeah, sure. I just turn my brain off and enjoy it, which is like what you guys tried to tell me to do. Like, just enjoy it as a production. It's it's a performance. I was like, okay, sure. I'll try to do that. And I could not. For the most part.
The more you think about this shit, the worse it's going to be for you. So that's kind of the mindset that I have with a lot of this, and even today, like watching that event today, like I had so much I wanted to say, but I'm just like, no, it's not worth it. Just watch it and move on to the next one. Because if you sit there and hyper analyze every single decision that is made from people who know way more about this than you do, you're just going to be completely miserable watching it. And I'm sure the misery seeps through every time I speak with our friends about this topic. But like it comes from a place of care and love, but just I don't know. Everything about this recently has been a lot for me, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But so like I don't blame you. Your criticisms are not you're not the only person that thinks that, right?
Mhm.
There are many people who, especially when it comes to the production side of things, they definitely feel the same way. And but I'm happy to see that there were some bright spots. So what was next for you?
After that was the WrestleMania. We watched WrestleMania 14 together,
Yeah.
and I think that one I was able to have a much better experience because we watched it as a group. Genuinely, like much better as a group. Because at least like even if I wasn't a fan of this whole thing, I'm sure it's like watching anything that you enjoy with other people who also enjoy it is more fun, right?
Correct.
Hell, we had a bad movie night where we watched bad movies together and enjoyed the hell out of it. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. Like the camaraderie in the community we can have, the outlandish comments and jokes we can make about stuff makes the viewing experience much more fun. And I think me being by myself trying to watch something, trying to turn my brain off, much more difficult versus when we're watching WrestleMania together. And we're like shooting jokes about stuff and creating our own jokes, fake storylines about stuff. You know what I mean? It was way easier for me to turn my brain off and just genuinely just enjoy and consume the product. So we watched WrestleMania 14, right?
Correct.
Okay. You want to give a little background on why you tossed that over to me?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I just had to clear my throat here. So
Okay.
for me, WrestleMania 14 was the start, right? It was the one that I really that really got me into wrestling. So the main event of this is Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels for the WWF title. Mike Tyson's at ringside as like the enforcer, whatever sort of role, plot device basically. And this is kind of where that whole attitude era of wrestling starts, right? Stone Cold beats Shawn Michaels, he becomes champion and sets the stage for the next couple of years of wrestling. So for me, I felt like it was super important to watch this because number one, it meant a lot to me, and then number two, it is the reason that kind of like we're all here still, because there was a chance that without this, wrestling's not around anymore. So
Yeah, I remember when you gave me the history of this whole thing and you gave me that description and explanation as well. I didn't realize like that the WWE or WWF at the time still,
yes,
yeah, was in the shitter. Like I didn't realize that was a thing because I always assumed that wrestling was always popular, and like specifically the WWE, WWF, because that was always a production you always heard about, right? Because I knew about the WCW getting taken over, I knew about that, and then I just always assumed that because of that, the WWF was just the top dog and everyone watched it. I didn't realize that like there was a bit of like a weird like weighting of popularity in the first place.
Oh yeah, no. So after the Hogan era kind of came and went, and they were sort of heading towards the Attitude Era, that in between era was a lot of uncertainty. Even though there were a lot of great wrestlers, financially speaking, it was tough, and so like I said, this all sort of perfect storm came at the right time. Because without it, we might not be here talking about this. We might be talking about something completely different.
Yeah, maybe you guys would actually watch more boxing or MMA like I do.
Well, who knows? Who knows what the hell we're watching?
Yeah.
Maybe we're watching, I don't know, some other reality show, or we're just watching regular old sports.
We're watching the slap fights. We're watching pro slap fights now.
Right. We're watching Kimbo Slice and Braids fight in the backyard and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good for you to give me that explanation because I didn't realize how pivotal this event. I'm sure there's other stuff that around this event that very much so happened, but like in your opinion, like in your view, this is like a big this is a big shot in the arm for the whole production in the first place.
Oh yeah.
that like really gave this thing like a second wind and like actually was able to like come back up again.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you saw the difference between the crowds now and the crowds back then, and how absolutely rabid they were back then.
Yeah, like
for all of this.
So we watched the WrestleMania a couple months ago, and like the crowd was big for that one. Obviously, they were in a big old stadium and arena for it, right? And the fact that it's like a 2-day production, massive crowd for that one, right? But there was just like an energy and a fervor that the crowd in watching this WrestleMania 14, exactly that. Like it was insane watching how invested and how much people loved this one. You see people popping off in the crowd and just like losing their minds when things would happen. And you could just hear, you could just kind of like almost understand like, the rumble of how this arena must have been during the WrestleMania 14.
Oh yeah.
A big thing I noticed as well was like a lot of clubbing to the head in WrestleMania 14. You know what I mean? Like forearms and like, like hammer fists down to the head, versus like kind of like the weird, I mean, I'm sure it's probably for like it's probably for the better for the longevity of the wrestlers, right? They're not just getting punched in the head, basically. Like correct. Like I'm sure, where like head hits come now, I think close either to like the side of the top of the skull, like the crown area, and the forehead, where those can take a little bit more punishment than getting hit like actually like in the temple. Or
we learned quite a bit about concussions and brain safety over the past 30 years.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That's kind of why people hit the way they hit now versus back then.
The floor padding is very different. I thought about this when I was watching it. It looks like those are the floor pads that we used to have in gym class, like around the ring. And you can just see that the padding gets destroyed throughout as the night goes on. Like the padding is like way more flattened and like footprints all over it. It's just like, man, this is barely padding. This is padding for you to like to like if you trip and fall from standing position, like when you're like a kid or like an adult, that's fine. It stops enough so that you don't just hit hard ground. They're falling out of a ring onto this. I'm like, Jesus, this has got to be terrible for them.
Oh yeah, no, it felt like shit, and that's kind of why you have so much pain management going on back then, which leads to the health issues, which leads to guys dying at 50.
Yeah, health issues,
what I mean?
Drug addictions, like painkillers and all this other. I mean, there's like a little like you remember the movie The Wrestler, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like that was like the first look that I had, and I know it's a dramatized movie, right? I know that, right? But it's like I remember seeing that, and like the scenes of him like opening up the locker and having just a bottle of painkillers, you know what I mean? Just like just to get through his day, right?
Oh yeah.
And then I remember watching after that. I remember someone told me to watch one of the documentaries around the WWF. And I don't remember what the name of it was now. I'm hard blanking on it right now. But it was basically a bunch of the old heads talking about, like this is like this was just their life. You know what I mean? They're like in the locker room, prepping, wrapping everything up. Afterwards, getting stitched up. Like literally like bleeding out of their head, getting stitched up by a doctor. Popping like a couple painkillers. And they're like, okay, take these for the next couple days. And by the way, you have another show in a week. Okay, sure, cool. And moving along. I kind of have that image of like this era being way grittier. You know what I mean? Like way more just raw punishment being taken by the performers.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely that. And it was tough to kind of watch it back, to be honest with you, because I knew like, and we went through it when we were watching it, right? It's like, oh, that guy's not with us anymore. That guy's not with us anymore. That guy's not with us anymore.
Yeah, there was like always like a comment. Like you made a comment. I think it was, I forgot which fight it was, but there was only one person still living after one of the from one of the events for the fights we watched. And I'm not saying that they died immediately. No, we're saying like to this day, like after all this time, like this person died in 2013 or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like you rattled off all the years when they had passed, and I'm like, yeah, just the raw amount of punishment they're taking. Yeah, it makes
Triple
sense.
H.
It absolutely
the Triple H match.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
Triple H. China's not with us. Owen Hart's not with us. I mean, granted, Owen Hart died in a like a freak accident.
Yeah.
But still, like he's not here. So I mean, there were a lot of guys. The both Legion of Doom members that we saw in the in the first match aren't here with us anymore. There were a number of people in the tag team battle royal that aren't here anymore. Let's see who else. Luna Vachon, part of the mixed tag match, isn't with us anymore. Who else here? Who else isn't with us anymore? Now that Paul Bearer isn't with us anymore, but
if you're that large,
older, right, and you're older
already, yeah, it makes sense.
But I think he also, I think he was sick too.
Yeah, again, he's a big man, so I'm assuming he probably had a bunch of health problems in the first place.
Yeah, heart attack due to high heart rate. Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
that makes sense. Okay,
yeah,
but I mean, just kind of like with one eye on the other screen here, just going through all the names in that in that battle royal. Like, yeah, like there are people that just aren't with us anymore, and because they're because of the time period.
Yeah, and like I look at pro wrestling as almost like watching superheroes fight. Like they're like, it's like they're all they are not all, but they tend to be people of like who are like larger, like bigger than life personalities. You know what I mean? And some of them built like brick shit houses, some of them built a little more normally, but they're also usually massive. When you look at them like in a ring, right. They're like you can see that they tower over the refs over like by like a foot easily.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're bigger people and they're doing this crazy high flying shit. You know what I mean? And it's wild that they're able to get up there and do this stuff. But it's like, yeah, like I understand the explosiveness and the energy that gets behind them when when things start popping off in the fight and stuff. I understand that. Like, it's big. It literally is watching superheroes fight. Like, it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, speaking of which, yeah, the first match I think of that night was the Aguila versus Taka match.
Yeah.
Yo, those guys were moving. There was like so much air and all that stuff. Very different styles of wrestling from what I remembered when I think of modern wrestling.
Yeah.
Like a lot, because it's a lot of like basically like, yeah, there's still some people who do the big the big acrobatic stuff in wrestling, like the modern day wrestling stuff. But this was like they're just throwing everything out on the mat. And in terms of like their like what they're putting their bodies through and what kind of stunts they're willing to do. But like, yeah, like they were just like everywhere, like over the ropes, onto the ground, climb back into the ring, off the ropes, into the air, onto the mat. Like, bro, they were going everywhere, and it was really fun to watch. And again, we were at this point we were watching this together, and again, different experience, right? I said it's much Correct. For me, it's a much better experience for me to watch this in a group with people with other people who do understand and don't understand wrestling, and then we have a person who is very much so in the know explaining everything to us. That's basically how like we experience this, right? We had you, our friend Zach, and our friend Tim. Zach, who was like an old school fan like I was, and then kind of drifted away from it, and then Tim, who had watched essentially no wrestling, right?
Correct.
And you were kind of like our Sherpa through this whole thing, right?
Right, basically. No, that's a great way to put it.
And you were giving us like a lot of backstory into like what was happening before here, and then like what happened afterwards, and like again, you were explaining to us some of the wrestlers who weren't with us anymore, and how some wrestlers' careers like were made from this kind of deal. You were talking about Steve Austin. You know what I mean? That was his real big pop off here, basically. Triple H was still an up and comer, I guess, technically at this point. He was big, but I guess not massive yet, right?
Who was that? I'm sorry, I missed the name. Triple H?
Yeah, because he was still being called. What was, I don't know his actual name.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley, right? That was guy. What Triple H was kind of. Well, is what Triple H is, right?
But he was known as the full name before, like just Triple H became like his like, also as also known as kind of deal.
Right. So, like I said, this was a jumping off point for a lot of guys, and Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H. I mean, you still have The Undertaker and Kane. I mean, these are all central figures in the next couple of years of wrestling, and they're all featured here. So I figured this was like a good place to start for old school WWE.
Yeah, this made more sense to me than trying to watch a modern production, because I've already heard some of these names. I was so happy to see Sergeant Slaughter. Like Sergeant Slaughter was like a personal favorite of mine back when I was a kid. And I was like, oh shit, Sergeant Slaughter. Ooh, he got bigger.
Yeah.
But I think at that point he was no longer wrestling, right? Because he was more of like just like a personality within the program at that point.
He was an on-air authority figure, which is something that they do when they want you around, but you can't really wrestle anymore. So
yeah, it was cool.
They make you a general manager or an enforcer of some kind.
Yeah. It was cool to see Sergeant Slaughter. I was like, oh, like my childhood right here, man. This is like I was a huge fan of Sergeant Slaughter. there was there was a lot of like work within these fights. I don't know if I'm not using the term. Oh, I don't know if that's a term. A work. I don't know if that's a term or not.
Yeah, no, it's an internal wrestling term
Okay, so
I'm not
trying to use that. I'm not trying to use the term. Like there was like during the Triple H Owen Hart fight, there was like Triple H was like going at one of Owen's legs,
right,
and I was like,
so,
it was good that they like followed like a previous story, like, and they referenced as well the previous storyline of his leg being broken or damaged or whatever,
right,
and then him going at it during this fight, and I was like, okay, that's cool that they brought that up and use that for like part of the storyline of this fight, still this ongoing storyline. And like I really like that stuff. And again, might be because it could be nostalgia talking here, but references to previous events in the Raw episode that I watched, I could not give two shits about.
right.
Like Rey Mysterio's kid got beat up. Okay, sure, yeah, I guess you'd be upset about that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, fine. And then same thing with McIntyre and the two guys. I forgot their names. Roman Reigns, Goose. Yeah, that guy. Those guys. Yeah, could not give two shits. If anything, it took me out of it because I was so confused. But this was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It's it's also much simpler. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, he has a bad leg. Cool, I'm gonna fuck up his leg then. You know what I mean? That's all it was. So I don't know if they still do that nowadays. I'm assuming they do, right? In like modern,
Yeah, you use your
production.
Your ring psychology, right? To somebody has an injured body part, you focus on that injured body part, whether it's real or whether it's not. Sometimes you'll work on it. So let's say somebody has a bum foot. Sometimes you'll attack the foot, or a bum knee or something like that. They'll attack the knee, and
which very much
it's still something that happens. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very much so makes sense. And like when I watch like again, a combat sport, right? Somebody hurts somebody's leg with a leg kick, right? They're gonna start working that leg kick. Like they're just gonna go at it for the rest of the match until their leg just crumbles, into dust, and then they can just take control from that point on. So it makes sense for me when I saw that. Like that was very much so like a if I looked at like a wrestling like a striking match, I'm like, yeah, I would assume that they're gonna keep going attacking the injured body part. So it's kind of a cool thing that they put they focus a little bit more in that. And the announcers were very
good at selling the situation.
Yeah, exactly that.
Because it's Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, two of the very best to ever do it. And so you're seeing again, you can tell who's good at this and who isn't. And luckily, a lot of the folks around during that time were really good at it. And some of those people are still around, and they still continue to be very good at this.
It's just that there's a very clear difference, as you mentioned, of the people who are good at this. Like watching the newer production, there was very much so like a difference when like a very, very clear me getting taken out of just enjoying the product when things weren't like popping off. It was just like my eyes glaze over. Like I lean back more into the sofa, and I'm more actively writing notes because I feel like I don't have to pay attention. But when things are going good, man, it's just great. I don't even have to think about it. I can just turn my brain off and kind of I can enjoy it. I get that high that you guys are talking about, and that raw enjoyment that you guys like you guys seem to pop off for when things happen, and like I was able to actually like partake in that. For a guy who really doesn't care or isn't too super involved in pro wrestling scene.
Right. Yeah. No. Like I said, when it's done well, it's great, and you live for those moments where it makes you feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what makes all of the frustration and all of the situations that you find yourself in where you're arguing with your friends over booking decisions and all of that, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's an everyday thing for you guys. Like,
yeah. Well, because my viewpoint and our other friends' viewpoints are just so different on this stuff, and like it always leads to interesting conversation, and and we all have our biases towards certain performers, and it can be like a struggle to talk about it, but when it's done right and you get the payoff that everybody wants and everybody's happy, there's nothing like it. it's the closest thing you can get to sports that you can manufacture, right? Because you can't always predict when like the underdog team or when your favorite team is going to win. Sometimes they lose, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you can in pro wrestling, you can control when that that person that has so much support behind them, you can make them win, right? And you can give people that moment. Now WWE is amazing at making it seem like they're going to give the person that moment and just deflating it. And if you watched the event earlier today and you're listening to this, you know what I mean, where you really think that somebody's going to win and they don't. And WWE does a really great job of just sucking the life out of you and sending you home pissed off. But every once in a while, they do send you home happy and you feel great. So that's kind of where I'm at.
What's the ratio or like the percentage of like you being?
Oh God, like 1 to 10.
Really?
Maybe if that. Ugh. If it's 1 to 10, it might very well be like 1 to 20, where like you really get the good feeling, go home happy moment. I mean, granted, like the weekly stuff, you can always be like, oh, that was a good episode. Oh, that was fun. But to really have like those critical moments, it basically only happens at pay-per-views because that's where your major storyline decisions are made for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And that those happen infrequently. So, and happy endings happen even more infrequently. So you get a pay-per-view, you get like a premium event every month, and maybe 1 or 2 of those will end on a good note.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least for me, and at least for certain other, individuals out there. But I mean, sometimes people do enjoy the endings. I know that certain people will definitely enjoy the ending of today's show because of what happened and what transpired. But for me and for a lot of other people, it's just like you mentioned with the way the endings, the destination to get to the ending is great, and then the ending comes and it's like a fart in the wind, right? It's just, let me get a better fart here. Like it sucks.
Yeah. So it's basically Yu Yu Hakusho. The journey is great, and then the ending just fizzles out.
Right, and then it's also depressing, just like Yu Yu Hakusho, because then you have to worry about adopted girls and that whole scenario, and then Kurama gives her father tied to a branch as a gift, and she can torture him for eternity, and it's basically that, just in spandex and boots
with a lot of steroids.
Not as much anymore. See, that's another thing they learned, that steroids can kill you.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that during the documentary.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of steroids anymore. Yeah, there was a whole trial with Vince and Hulk Hogan, brother, and all of that.
Actually, here's a perfect thing, I guess, for me in terms of like me being a older fan and not being as much involved with the newer stuff. It was the mixed tag team match with Goldust and I don't remember anyone else's names in here.
So yeah, it was Goldust and Luna Vachon versus Mark Merrow and Sable.
Okay, so here, right? The note that I have here is the athleticism of the women's matches has greatly intensified over the years.
Correct.
This is from what I've seen. Because again, we watched the WrestleMania a couple months ago, and like there were just way more like physicality in my, at least for more of like the modern physicality, right? I'm talking like, they're doing a lot of like leg throws, you know what I mean? They're doing a lot of like high flying stuff. I mean, they did that stuff back then, but I'm saying like I think it feels faster and more flowy now.
Oh yeah, women's wrestling has improved greatly over, I would say, over the past 8 or so, 10 or so years. Has grown. Women's wrestling has gotten a bazillion times better than it was when we watched in that era, and even shortly thereafter, where they're basically a sideshow. Now they are oftentimes the show, especially where WWE and Impact are concerned. They are the show oftentimes.
And like and the other side of it was like that the crowd pop off when the women fight. is insane. Like the crowd reaction is absolutely wild when
Right.
when
And I
something
think
goes
it
off.
was, but I don't think it was the way that it's not the same emotion that comes when Stone Cold finally gets his hands on Shawn Michaels, right? It feels kind of like more of a sideshow back then than these are two legitimate, even though the two women involved are two legitimate performers and two of the best to do it. To me, it felt like the crowd was into it because, oh, chick fight, right? Rather than finally these two are getting at each other and they're finally fighting. It's, oh, chick fight.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and that kind of
is true.
sucked,
Yeah,
but
that is true.
and it sucks, but you take the good with the bad when it comes to the past. And I mean, look at the way women's wrestling has changed now, especially in WWE. Like it's a completely different animal now, and they main event. When women main evented Raw, Trish Stratus and Lita main evented Raw for the first time. I think in like the mid 2000s, and it was like a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
And now that kind of feels like that happens very often, where the women are not only main eventing the weekly shows, they're main eventing the pay-per-views. They main evented WrestleMania a few times. Like it's completely different now.
That shift is cool to hear about and see. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it felt more like a pop off. Like, oh, it's chicks fighting. You know what I mean? It's like that's
Right.
what it felt like back then. Now,
And especially when it came to Sable, who was like, here's, let's call a spade a spade. She's an attractive woman who could also fight, and she was good. I mean, she was super talented, and she wrestles her partner in that match, Mark Marrow, a few events after that, I believe, and she power bombs. Like she,
That's
as
wild.
a woman in that, with that like size and strength,
yeah, her
power
like,
bombs
her
a
frame.
male. Yup, exactly. Power bombs Mark Marrow, and it's like it was insane. But she was super over meaning like people were really into her and her character. So that might have had something to do with it too. Maybe I am being like a negative Nancy when it comes to the crowd back then. Maybe they were just super into her because they were.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it just kind of always felt like when the women finally fought that it was, oh, chick fight. It wasn't, oh, I get to see these competitors finally get at each other after months and months. It was just, oh, two chicks are fighting.
Yeah, like there's there could be like a like a culture shift around here, but it literally felt like when I was see like the woman fighters, and it's just like, oh, it's Tits McGee. You know what I mean? Like
Right. It could be anybody there.
Yeah,
right?
it's like it's just like a fit busty woman in a revealing outfit, and like, oh, she did a pile driver, wild. You know what I mean? And people pop up for that back then, but now it's more just now it's like the even like going back to the Monday Night Raw, right? As like watching the tag team fight again, like with Asuka, the other girl, and the other two. It was just like they're flying. They're like again the big girl. I don't know her name again. Unfortunately, I'm terrible with names. Dewdrop. There we go. Like when she went for like a cross body slam, I was like, "Yo, she got up there! Holy shit!" You know what I mean? It's like it's very very different. It's very different now, just in terms of like the style of performance from the female performers here. Very very different. I mean, there was still some big stuff in the mixed tag team match. There was
right.
But it's the style and the athleticism I feel like has greatly intensified, and like just they're willing to do more of the high flying, big impact stuff that the guys have been doing. You know what I mean? Again, as you said, it's arguably that that now, especially now, the women matches can be like and are the main attractions for some of these events versus back then. It felt more like a sideshow. It felt like, okay, we're watching two attractive women fight. That's basically it. Could be a product of the time. Could be, looking at it from a culture shift from today's standpoint. But yeah, very, very different products from back then to now. Very, very much so.
For sure.
Yeah. Let's see. After that was the Rock versus Ken Shamrock fight. This is the first one I was able to turn my brain off, like fully turn my brain off and just enjoy.
Again, when you have two guys that are really good at this. And I was so sad that I missed this because I had to step out for a minute.
Yeah, but you missed all the commentary from me, Zach, and Tim, just losing our shit.
Yeah, no, this is probably the second best match on the card, and it's close to Austin and Sean for me, man. This match is great.
There's a couple of moments that I would see in this, and I know it's a little bit of a meme where the Rock oversells. Did it back then.
Part of his character,
and I still enjoyed it. Still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Metal chair finally got brought out for this one. Again, the unga bunga part of my brain is like, yeah, metal chair, let's go. Yep. I don't know what it is. It's just the sound of the impact, just the visual of the chair. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just there for me. I just grew up. It's always the chair. It's always the chair that someone busts out, and I'm like, yeah, there we go. Ken Shamrock, man. Obviously, I'm a fan.
He's really good at this.
Again, I was a fan of Ken Shamrock, during his Pancratia years and his mixed martial arts years, right? So, and I completely forgot that he was a pro wrestler. Completely forgot. Because I know he wrestled before getting to mixed martial arts proper, I think. But he's a shoot style wrestler. Like he was the one who popularized.
Yeah, they just booked him as Ken Shamrock. Like that was just his character. Hey, you're this badass guy that fights mixed martial arts. Just go be that.
Word.
And have like this awesome theme song that is super fucking awesome. And
there was just some parts in this. I'm like, the Rock should have took a punch to the face. You know what I mean? I was like, yep, that's the raw punch. It wasn't even like a club to the head kind of deal. Just like just a full on, a lot of impacts here. Boots to the chest and the chin, like big unga bunga fight action, and I really enjoyed that fight. Again, I don't even have a lot of notes for that one. That was just me just enjoying it. Yeah, I think that's where the difference is for me. Where like I just see if there's like no notes, that means that must have just meant that my brain turned off and I just enjoyed it. Mick Foley, Chainsaw Charlie versus Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. This was intense for me. I did not remember this. I do not remember this one at all. But there was a lot of stuff in this match that I'm just like, there's a lot going on here. Like the people, there was like the ladder into the dumpster. I'm like, that's a 6 to 10 foot ladder, you know what I mean, off of the stage into the dumpster, which is obviously lower on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what the fuck? And like, I'm sure there's something in there, but it's not a lot. You're still hitting metal.
No, hardcore matches are again like one of the best parts of wrestling. It harkens back to all the carny shit, which I love. Those? Oh yeah, there's death matches and there's a whole death match promotion. If you want to get into it, it's called Game Changer. It's great.
Okay, so is that part of the WWE, or is that a completely separate thing?
Nope, that is an independent promotion.
Okay, gotcha. Does the WWE still have these big old carny matches?
Yeah, once in a while they save them for the pay-per-views and like the big mean feuds that are really blowing up, but they don't do it as much as a lot of the other companies do.
Okay, because like I'm gonna assume that like because on the production side they're probably a little safer. I felt like there was a lot more risk going on in this fight because there was a lot of like, again, bigger drops into like, metal props.
Yeah. I mean, you're dealing with Mick Foley and Terry Funk, who is Chainsaw Charlie, two of like the premier hardcore legends who have put their bodies on the line for this sport.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
This is a lot. This is the one because again, I was fully turned the brain off enjoyment of the last match. This is this match was just like a follow up for that, whereas it's like a lot of dumb bits came out in this group. We were talking about them falling to a dumpster and like, oh god, Mick Foley found a gun at the bottom of the dumpster. Yeah, and started shooting. Like, just dumb jokes that we just started making throughout this because we were just enjoying the product.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, I had a funny comment here for myself. I saw the Surge dispenser, the Surge cooler in when they went backstage. And I just, and I was like, let's go. Yes. Surge. Oh, God, I love Surge. Oh, I missed that, like, late 90s, early 2000s, just, like, energy soda era. Because they needed a competitor to Mountain Dew.
God, Surge, man.
Oh, random tidbit. I found, I was able to drink Surge recently. In 2018, we were going cross-country for a trip, right? We stopped off at this, like, gas station in the middle of, bumblefuck nowhere. And they were just selling Surge in a can. And I was like, yo, I have to buy this. Like, I have to drink this. Even though we're going to be stuck in a car for the next, 8 hours or whatever. I don't care how much my stomach hurts. I have to drink this. Oh, man. Oh, it's so good. It just tastes like battery acid, just like how I remembered it.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking it up right now. Sorry.
It's so good. I thought it was like discontinued, but no, apparently it does sell just in much.
They brought it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a limited release, but it's back.
Yeah. It's it is just battery acid and sugar. It's so good. I love it. I know it's terrible for me, but if I ever see it, I have to buy it. We don't get it. We don't get it very often, obviously.
Yeah, no, I mean, you drink it once every couple of years, it's probably fine. If you drink it every other day,
You're
probably
knocking
not.
a couple years off your life. Yeah, probably.
Uh-huh.
Let's see here. Next match, the Kane versus the Undertaker. Yo, this was great. So for me, a little bit of background here. Huge Undertaker fan. Like even if I don't watch wrestling, I remember there was a WrestleMania a couple years ago. It was like supposedly the Undertaker's last WrestleMania. I was like, oh yeah, I'm absolutely coming to this, because I remember you guys were joking like, oh, Lakan's not going to show up to this one. We watched it at Buffett's house, I think it was, and like I heard Undertaker was on the card. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I have to come. If this is supposedly his last one, I gotta show up to this one. But yeah, man. Big boys just doing big boy things, basically. Just very physical. They make the ring look absolutely tiny. You know, they go full vertical on suplexes and throws and jumps. Like man, these guys moved so much. It's wild. I love this one. This is again another match I was fully just like, I'm in. This is like my young nostalgia fanboyism coming in, and just really just like, yeah, let's go Undertaker, let's go Kane.
Yeah. I think people look at the last few years of The Undertaker and forget how incredible he was during his peak. And the crazy thing is, his peak was like 15 years, which doesn't happen in sport
for so long too.
Yeah, so I mean, this was a great match, and they had so much chemistry in the ring together that, I mean, you could watch them fight all day, honestly.
There was two big things I noticed here in this match, aside from like obviously the big boys doing big boy things. Undertaker going over the ropes into the table.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. Told you, hey, he is great for a reason.
Like, just watching him launch himself.
He is considered great for a reason.
Oh my god, that was.
But yeah, no, he is ridiculous.
That was like my first legitimate pop off of the night. Like that was me just like, oh shit. When we were watching it, like me, Zach, and Tim just like losing our minds just on that bit. Oh my god, it was so good. And then we had a funny comment from you and Zach, who pointed out where there was like a chokehold, like a rear naked choke moment. It was clearly just them to catch their breath.
Oh yeah, rest holds happen all the time, and anytime you have this bonkers blitzkrieg of offense, and then immediately followed by a slow down chokehold, that's them catching their breath.
Yeah, which is fair. They're doing some nut shit. It's fair. Yeah. But it was just like, we clearly just like, again, we're overdubbing at this point. It's like, oh, just take a minute. Just need to lie down for a minute. Just hold me. Like, just us doing, dumb bits over what's actually happening on screen, which I always find funny. And yeah, and like, again, that's all the notes I had. Like literally from that point on, I just stopped thinking and just watched, and I was like, yeah, this is great. I love this.
Well, because you watched the main event, and the main event to me is the best match of the night. It's one of the best matches, just with context. Right. Yeah. So I think if you watch the match in a vacuum, it's fine. It's a fine match. You have a red hot Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, who's basically held together with duct tape and Frankenstein screws, right? But I think when you have the context and you think about everything going on prior to that and then everything that follows, I think it is really one of the best matches and most important matches. Really, I don't know if it's the best, but it's one of the most important matches, and it's one of my favorite matches of all time.
And then of course after Kane and Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, like that name's been around with like my experience with wrestling for so long, because my brother, he was a big fan of Shawn Michaels. Just the fact that his sweet chin music is just a kick to the face, love it, just funny to me. He moves, man. Like again, like I don't know exactly how big he was or what he weighed at the time, but he sells big impacts really well. He's like moving all around the ring and all this crazy stuff. And yeah, like again, like I think I don't know why, but for some reason in my mind, Steve Austin always felt like not this lumbering kind of figure, not like the Undertaker, but like I felt like he always had this big like Michael Myers type of deal where it's like, I'm gonna get you no matter what. You know what I mean? That's what it was in my mind for a long time. But Austin moves a lot too. I completely forgot about like Steve Austin, especially in his heyday.
Again, you kind of forget when you watch sort of the last days of this person, like your last sights of these guys aren't who they really were. And Stone Cold, I mean, is one of the best, if not. I mean, like, you know, we've talked about him being on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, he is a complete package. He is very methodical when he wrestles, and his finesse is turned down to zero. He has no finesse, but you know, he can still move. But none of his movements have finesse behind them. They are all rigid. They are all powerful. They are all like he is here to hurt.
Yeah, like it's like
and I love him.
It's like a high efficiency performance type of deal. You know what I mean? Like everything he does has a reason, and
it's to kick your ass.
Yeah, basically, exactly. It's exactly that.
You stupid son of a bitch. Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of him, and it's great. And I love watching him wrestle.
Is he your favorite?
He's one of them, man. He's one of them. I love Stone Cold. I love doing the impression. I love him on the microphone. I think he's top 2 on like the microphone with The Rock. I love his style. I love how he just he just methodically beats the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And like he has no finesse. He doesn't do any of the crazy stuff. He doesn't jump off the top rope quite often. It's all just a strike-based offense with one goal in mind.
I think again, I think for me there was a personal bias. Again, I'm a big Undertaker guy, so that's why like that for me. I popped off during that one. This one was still very fun. This one was still absolutely fun for me. The fact that Tyson is the guest enforcer here is like, because this was right after he bit Holyfield's ear, right? I want to say.
I have to look. Hang on one second.
Yeah, let's do a little quick Google search here real quick. Because that must have been that. Yeah, that was Tyson Holyfield 2, the rematch, and then I think when was yeah, I don't remember the years exactly off the top of my head. This is great for audio podcast. just dead silent.
Leave it all in. Yes. So this is right after he bit Holyfield's ear.
Like how what's the time frame? Like 6 months, a year?
So the bite happens in 97.
Okay.
In June 97. In March 98 is WrestleMania 14.
So not even a year. Not even a year later.
No,
he's in as the guest enforcer of the WWE.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, this must have been absolutely insane. Like in terms of, especially during the they show like the highlight reel of like the promo of him, with what is it? What's the group? Generation X.
Generation X.
Yeah. During that whole thing, like him wearing the shirt, doing the cross chop at everybody. This must have been insane. This must have been absolute.
Oh yeah.
It must be basically like how it feels nowadays to like Bad Bunny being in the production. You know what I mean? Like
kinda.
Or even like Logan Paul. You know what I mean? It must be like that kind of deal. But the thing is, from my understanding, Logan Paul and Bad Bunny are much more involved in regards.
Yeah,
to
no, they're actual wrestler. Like they actually wrestle in the matches. The other thing too, the fan base isn't as rabid, and I would argue that Mike is a bigger star than.
Yeah, absolutely,
maybe a bigger sports star, I'll say. So like the sport aspect of it, but Bad Bunny's really good and Logan Paul's really good. Like, they're both really good athletes in the ring. Like
I remember the first time hearing about Logan Paul in the ring. And there was a lot of people giving him shit for it, right? Because they're like, "Oh, he's some snotty brat."
No, I think that before he got in the ring, there were a lot of people giving him shit.
Yeah,
and then initially he started wrestling, and everybody shut up.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Because I think there is a little bit of that when you really look into these personalities, right? Like Bad Bunny has been. I think he's been into. I think I've read something somewhere where he like admitted he's like a longtime fan of wrestling. He loves it, and like he always talks about it. That's why he got into it in the first place. Or like once he got the chance to be in the production, he was like, "Yeah, I'm in." You know what I mean? Like, please let me in. And same with Logan Paul. And like Logan Paul was like a wrestler, like not like a pro wrestler, but like like a collegiate wrestler. You know what I mean? Like he is like, and he is like a big dude who can who very very athletic person, right? He boxes. He's always keeps in shape. Even I don't personally watch his YouTube stuff at all, but like I know a little bit about him, his background, where he was actually like like a college wrestler. He trained seriously for boxing, and everyone always give him shit for that, right? They're like, oh, he's a joke of a guy. But then like you watch him actually doing stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, no, he's in. He's absolutely committed to this whole thing. He loves this stuff, and so it's the same. So it was just funny because again, comparing it to like Tyson in like here, it's like, oh no, Tyson's massive because he's a big sports personality, right? And he was a champ for he was like this heavyweight monster of a man, right? Like you just were terrified of him. But like there is this sports crossover, you know what I mean, of the traditional combat sport versus like the sport production, and this must have been like the big like, I mean not the big one, but I could think of as like this is a big moment in terms of having like a boxer in the ring with like with a bunch of pro wrestlers.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly I love watching Logan Paul because things like his moves and his movements weren't perfect, but they were still executed correctly. They just didn't look as smooth. There was a little bit of like a rigidness to it.
Yeah,
and I
it could be
appreciated that.
Could be
Well,
as
no,
well.
I
Like he's still a little bit
appreciated
newer
that.
in doing so in the first place too.
Exactly. And I appreciated that, right? I appreciated seeing someone in there who wasn't this, super clean,
Really refined.
professional. Right. It was nice to see somebody be gritty again. And I think that's again kind of like why I like Stone Cold so much, because everything was just kind of gritty and real. Like he looked like a real guy doing a suplex. He didn't look like a super polished professional. He looked like just a regular schmo doing it.
Yeah, man. Like
Yeah.
the Shawn Michaels Steve Austin match again. Like I know that was like one of your favorite matches of all time. The venue, like just watching the crowd just lose their shit about what's happening in the ring. Like yeah, like that's like that's like the WWF WWE that I remembered. Especially growing up, like just how massive this whole thing was in the first place. That's why it's obviously still survived to this day. And yeah, like I understand, like especially now understanding the context, like yeah, okay, I see how this is like actually like the adrenaline shot to the heart that the WWF needed at the time to like really like cement itself back in being like a major production and having the fan base, the rabid fan base that
Oh yeah.
that still exists to this day. But
One last note on WrestleMania 14, it does have one of my favorite carny shit wrestling moments.
Yeah.
When the DX band, the Pretend Rage Against the Machine,
oh my god,
does the Star Spangled Banner in America the Beautiful. I'm very happy I got to show you guys that.
I was genuinely upset when I watched that because they so when we watched it on
we watched it on Peacock, and
on
Peacock
yeah,
takes that off. WWE Network used to have it on there. The WWE Network, when it was its own standalone entity, included the Star Spangled Banner and the America the Beautiful. Peacock removed it, which is bullshit because it's hilarious and it's so awful and cringeworthy. So I found it on like, what was it, like Vimeo or something like that,
yeah,
or like
one of the
Daily Motion or
yeah,
something.
not one of the main. That's not YouTube, basically.
Right. One of these other third party, these other websites,
smaller video
that have videos
services.
on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, no. So I showed it to these guys, and they were all miserable, and it was great, and I loved it.
Oh god!
I downloaded it immediately,
so angry, like watching it,
just to make sure we had it, just to make sure it doesn't go missing and it becomes lost media.
I hate it so much. It made me like
great.
I'm a musician, bro, and this like it hurt to watch
and it. Sucks. I know, it's so bad. I love it.
It's so bad.
All right, what else do we have here? Because I'm dying of heat stroke here.
I guess sorry. So we had two other things on the docket for me to watch. Unfortunately, due to time constraints and my schedule as of the last 2 weeks has been insane.
Likewise, yeah, I forgot to give you another non WWE event to watch.
Yeah,
just to sort of give you a dynamic here. But
so I was supposed to watch AEW the same week I watched Raw. Unfortunately, I forgot to DVR it because I'm stupid, and then I realized, I can watch it at any time on my end if I just log in through my network provider login credentials.
Right.
And I was gonna start watching it. I was gonna watch it today before we got into this recording. Unfortunately, I had some music lessons to do, some prep to do, and I was like, okay, maybe when I get home, I can try to squeeze in, a 2-hour watch session or whatever. And I got home and I just crashed. I worked last night and I was just done. And unfortunately, I could not get through it. I will watch it just because you did recommend it to me. Because I know you were a big proponent of AEW. Like you were very much
Yeah,
like a fan of it.
and I think it's because it offers an alternative to WWE. It also really kind of reminds me of all the, the carny shit from back in the day. And I know a lot of people out there don't like it and they prefer sort of the sports entertainment WWE style, but some people do appreciate the callback to pro wrestling. And look, I'm not one of these guys that have drank the AEW Kool-Aid. There's a lot going on that's probably not great, but look, man, it gets me. I watch it once a week. I sit down for 2 hours. I don't have to really invest that much time into it. And honestly, I pay attention to 50 to 60% of the show anyway. So, it's fine. I enjoy it. I think you might enjoy it too, especially if you like the athleticism and you like the characters. I think WWE does a better job of making these people seem like superheroes. But AEW and other wrestling companies do a nicer job, I think, of the in-ring action as well as the, telling the story a little bit better and making it a bit realer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because that's the thing for me is like, again, like anytime story happens in this stuff, my eyes glaze over. So like if I get, even if I don't become fully realized again as a fan of pro wrestling, it's just like I just want to see what it is and maybe possibly get like at least understand the level of investment you guys get on personally,
right?
Because you guys are obviously invested. Like you and our friend group are always talking about wrestling stuff, and again, my eyes glaze over when I see you guys talking about it. My eyes glaze over when I hear them in the ring just talking. So like for me, it's like I can't get there. So I want to at least try my best to at least give this a chance. But like yeah, like for me, it's like the ring stuff. The ring stuff is what I care. Like the part that I can care about. You know what I mean? But like the promotional stuff, the storyline stuff, I'm just like, yeah, just get to punching each other. You know what I mean? That's
all right.
that's
Yeah,
kind of where I am.
We definitely got to get you on New Japan and on. You could try AEW. I mean, there are more story elements. I think New Japan does a really nice job of. I think New Japan does a really nice job of trimming the fat, so to speak, and just getting to the action.
Word. Okay. So maybe we'll watch one of those together or something.
Yeah, you know what? Let's
because I would like again. I think the WrestleMania watching it with the group and having you Sherpa us through it, I think gave me a better understanding of what's actually happening.
Right.
And like yeah, it helps me like turn off my brain a little bit, so I'm not watching it so analytically. Just so I can actually enjoy the product and like not be hypercritical of everything that I see on stage.
For sure.
I guess that's really my opinions. I'm not a full blown fan, and I have not rekindled my that fire as a fully yet, I guess. But I get it. I get what you guys are all about it.
So we basically had the same opinion on the thing that we shared with each other.
Yeah,
basically. I get it. It's important. I'm happy that people like it, but it's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, I think I might have enjoyed mine. What you gave me a little bit more because it's.
Right. No. The other thing too is maybe we just haven't found the right version of this thing that we've both been recommended.
Yeah.
To really fall for it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it is watching an AEW. Maybe it is a New Japan. Maybe it's like Game Changer and all these other indies that are more hardcore or more violence focused. That'll get you, there. And, maybe I just haven't found the right VTuber yet. I haven't watched a lot of Mace, Brennan Williams, the VTuber that is also a professional wrestler that we talked about. So maybe that's my guy. Maybe that's my VTuber, right? And maybe Game Changer is your wrestling company, or maybe New Japan is your wrestling company. We're just going to have to find out.
For now, I'm just going to stick to my cute anime girls. Again, there's not enough cute anime girls in pro wrestling. I think that might be the issue.
All right, so you'll definitely love Japanese wrestling. All right, we got to find you something here.
I've again from the clips that I've seen of Japanese wrestling stuff, I like that's carny shit, bro. That's my shit. I like it. I like a lot more. It's more outlandish. I like the weird
and I love
shit
it
they do. I didn't think I was gonna come into here hating it, or like especially like having to sit down and watch 3 hours of a Raw, and then watching 2 hours of an AEW, and then watching 2.5 hours of WrestleMania. I definitely thought I was gonna be like one of those like, oh god, I'm gonna find nothing that I enjoy out of this. Everything's gonna be super critical. I'm gonna hate everything. But no, it was like it was fine. It was fine for me. There were absolutely moments where I enjoyed. I think that's it for
sure.
me. Do you have anything else you want to cover up before we finish up here?
No, I just want to make sure everybody knows. Please like, comment, subscribe. The more you do that, the more we realize that people enjoy what we're putting out, the more we can do more things and make one of these creative endeavors finally take off.
Yeah, right.
If
Hopefully.
you enjoy the show, please feel free to tweet at me at JeffKOTUBY on Twitter. And we'll see you next week, I guess.
Yep. Take care, guys. But the thought in my mind when I go to an escape room is they put you in and like, okay, go ahead and escape, and I just start kicking the door down. Just
Yeah,
like,
right.
What are you doing? Escaping.
Yeah,
I'm doing a pretty good job at it.